Hello, Professor Haston. I'm doing mine on how World War II affected the economy. Um, World War II, this is just kind of a timeline of what went on at the beginning and throughout it. In 1939, Germany invaded Poland, and that was the start of the war. So Britain and France declared war on Germany. Then, shortly after, in 1941, Japan decided to bomb Pearl Harbor in the U.S., so we entered the war. USSR defeated Germany at the Battle of Stalingrad and in 1943, and in 1944, Doomsday happened. A year later, the Germans surrendered, and then following, we atomic bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki. A thesis for my research project is economically the United States post-World War II shifted from the industry of creation from destruction to the industry of creation for creation's sake and created a vast amount of job opportunities for those who were unemployed from the Great Depression. A few takeaways that I took from this was post-World War II, many countries were financially and physically exhausted from everything that they sacrificed throughout the war. United States benefited the most out of any of the countries from World War II. We had a large population as opposed to many countries during this time, and technological prowess and acquired to the capital that was vital to change World War II machinery into business and industry that helped the average civilian. Europe saw great growth as well post World War II. It just happened at a slower rate than it did in the United States and Japan and all around the world. How the Depression contributed. The Great Depression was a major factor in the United States economy during World War II. The United States production was rapidly growing because it was making up during the lost time in the Great Depression because so many things happened. The unemployment rate towards the beginning of the war was around 25% or so, and it slowly dropped because of the war, and many jobs became available and eventually got down to around 10%. The United States decided to spend and add about $236 billion to the already acquired debt that the U.S. had attained, and the percentage increase was about 1,048%, which was at the time the most immense percentage that any president had acquired. From 1939 to 1944, the economy had an annual increase of about 8% between the years of 1941 through 43, and the economy grew more than about 17% yearly. Due to this amount, the debt that the U.S. accumulated over the years, the government was forced to expand the income tax. There was a mandatory withholding from paychecks, such as just your normal day jobs. 4 million Americans paid federal taxes in 1939. By 1945, that number had rose to 43 million. Some opportunities that may have became available during the war. 17 million civilian jobs became available or were created. Industrial productivity increased about 96%. One reason the U.S. production increased at a fast rate was the Great Depression. Manufacturing, shipbuilding, and auto factories were able to end and needed to gear up for the production. Weekly wages become 50% higher in 1939. Opportunities for minorities. There were jobs created, opportunities for not only the average civilian, but for minorities as well. The war brought employment and fair distribution of incomes for blacks and women's during this time. In many cases, this was the first time that blacks and women were entered into the workforce and could make a solid income. People started saving money from their income, and then there was the GI Bill. There was a debate on whether or not veterans should return jobless or not. The public opinion that held strongest was that they should not return jobless without any opportunity to obtain education. President Roosevelt contributed by one of the largest things that helped our economy was he implemented certain economic policies at the time to stimulate the economy. Franklin D. Roosevelt rolled out programs and projects that made up what he called the New Deal during the first 100 days in office. And then coming back from the war, Soldiers really struggled coming home. As you can imagine, soldiers get very involved physically, mentally, emotionally when they're at war. These soldiers spend every second of their lives devoting it to giving the U.S. their freedom in war. And so when the war was over, many of the soldiers had a hard time coming home because they felt like they owed their lives to all the fallen soldiers. They had spent their lives saving people and protecting their freedom and their American rights. So that is what I have to say about the economy post World War II and how it was affected. Thank you.